we were discussing about the religion Buddhism, right? So far we studied six other heretical teachers and their doctrines earlier, and we move into the doctrine or the religion Buddhism last week, right? So during our last session, we discussed about the Buddha in a very detailed, very basic manner, and the basic core of the Buddhism, right? So core teachings of the doctrine Buddhism, like the Four Noble Truths, as well as the Noble Eightfold Paths, and we started discussing about the main characteristics of the religion Buddhism, right? Right under that, characteristics or special features which are attributed to the Buddhism, right? So under which we discussed three factors: openness, and open to all castes, and finally we discussed the dialect, right? So the Pali dialect was used by the Lord Buddha rather using the Sanskrit, because Sanskrit was a kind of a limited dialect. It was limited to the Brahmanic culture and only for the Brahmins, right? So therefore, Buddha used the very normal and common dialect, which was the Pali, right? So, and the today we are going to discuss the rest of the other main characteristics which are attributed to the Buddhism. And I don't think, even though I was planning to start discussing the difference between the Buddhism and Jainism, I don't think that I will be able to start it by today, because we have plenty to discuss tonight, right? So what I'm going to do is we will discuss the attributed characteristics to the Buddhism tonight, and during in our next lecture, I mean, hopefully after the summer vacation, right? So we will discuss the differences and similarities in between the Buddhism and Jainism, right? So the fourth characteristic that we are going to discuss tonight is the promote the harmlessness. Promote the harmlessness. Simply, we could identify it as ahimsa, right? It's ahimsa. We have came across this concept in many times. You have already know ahimsa is where simply exerting or giving away the love and kindness to the distributing love and kindness to all the living beings, right? So Buddha always advised his all the followers to exert love and kindness to all the human beings, right? So here all the human beings, right? So when we were when it comes to the Brahmanic tradition and in other religions, uh, they only considered the human beings, right? They only paid attention to the human beings. But when it comes to the Buddhism, Lord Buddha considered the all the human beings as well as the animals, right, were treated as the precious lives. They all were treated similarly, right? So thus Buddha advised all his followers to spread or to give love and kindness to all the living beings in the sense to all the animals as well as to all the human beings, right? So the and Buddha rejected and protested against the sacrificial ceremonies, right? So there were plenty of sacrificial rituals at that time during the 6th century BCE. Buddha thoroughly rejected those sacrificial rituals and ceremonies, right? So Buddha rejected the killing and harming the animals, rejected killing and harming the animals, right? So further, Buddha taught that, and he advised that no man has the right to take the life of another, right? No man has the right to take the life of another in terms of human beings as well as animals, right? So Buddha stressed that the life is precious and equally valuable to all. Life is precious and equally valuable to all the animals as well as human beings, right? So thus Buddha advocated non-violence, right? So non-violence is one of the major concepts that we could identify within the religion Buddhism. Non-violence, in accordance with the spreading love and kindness, or else we could say ahimsa, or spreading the metta feeling to the other animals, including to all animals as well as all the human beings, right? So the thus Buddha advocated non-violence and harmlessness, right? So thereby Buddha tried to break all the barriers of classes and caste divisions, right? So whenever we talk about the other religions, for example, if we take the Brahmanic Brahmanism, they not only harm the animals but also within the law, they really ill-treated the other peoples who were not there within their class or group, right? So, for example, if we take Shudras, they were really ill-treated, right? So they were neglected within the society, right? So Buddha wanted to ban that discrimination, and Buddha wanted to stop that, right? So thereby Buddha taught or advised all his followers to spread love and kindness, or to spread metta, right? So non-violence is one, could be identified as one of the highest principle within the religion Buddhism, right? So the non-violence, spreading love or spreading ahimsa, could be identified as one characteristic which is attributed to Buddhism, which helped which helped to Buddhism to attract more followers into it, right? So the all were equally treated, right? We have already talked about this caste problem earlier, right? So all the castes were treated equally within the religion Buddhism. Thereby, any person within the society had the ability to embrace this religion. Thereby, Buddha, and the religion Buddhism could able to attract more massive crowd towards the religion Buddhism. That is another reason which helped to spread the Buddhism in a more effective manner within India during the 6th century BCE. Right. So another that is the promoting harmlessness or ahimsa. Right. The next topic, or the next feature, or the characteristics within the Buddha as well as Buddhism is the tolerance. Right. So when we talk about the tolerance, there was a good example for this. There was a very close disciple to Mahavira, very close follower to the Mahavira. Mahavira was the teacher of his own tradition. Hope you can remember that, right? So there was a very close disciple to Mahavira called Upali. Yeah, Upali, right? So he gave up following Mahavira, and he approached the Buddha, and he started following Buddhism, right? So and sooner he was pleased with the teachings of Buddha, right? So this specific Upali, the follower, he was sooner pleased with the teachings of Buddha or the Buddhist doctrine, and he immediately expressed his desire to enter into the Buddhist ordination. Right, sooner he wanted to enter into the Buddhist ordination in order to become a Buddhist monk. Right, so but however, what Buddha advised him was, Buddha wanted him to go through a thorough investigation about the Buddhism before entering into the ordination, right? So Buddha advised him to go for a thorough investigation, examine well the doctrinal facts before he is entering into the ordination, right? So that and further Upali was advised to coordinate and continue to support with the Mahavira, right? So this is how Buddha taught. This is what Buddha taught to his followers, right? So he wanted to pay gratitude, right? So to the Mahavira, because Upali was a previous student of Mahavira, and Buddha wanted to teach his followers the gratitude and the tolerance to all the followers, right? So in almost all the other religious teachers wanted to they just want to increase the number of followers, right? But Buddha never wanted to increase the number of followers. Rather, whenever the followers wanted to enter into the ordination, Buddha never urged them, right? Never urged them, never hurried their decision. Rather, Buddha wanted them to investigate or to learn more about the doctrine before entering to the Buddhism, right? And also he advised the Upali to coordinate and continue support with the Mahavira in order to pay the gratitude to his previous teacher, right? So this example well illustrates the boundless compassion, karuna feeling, and the tolerance of the Buddha, bound of compassion and tolerance of the Buddha, right? So it is another characteristic that we could identify within the religion Buddhism. And the next characteristic that we are going to look at tonight is the emphasis on morality or sila, emphasis on sila, right? So Buddha always stressed to his followers the right conduct, right? So the right stressed on the right conduct in order to achieve the higher spiritual goal, right? In order to achieve the whatever, not only within the spiritual life, but also within our lay lives also, right conduct is something more important that we need to consider, right? So Buddha always stressed his followers to have a right conduct in order to achieve the highest spiritual goal, right? So while he was encouraging the right conduct, on the other hand, Buddha always discouraged to approaches to two extremes, right? Approaches to two extremes. What are the two extremes or two antha, right? So the hope you have already heard about this Kamasukallikana yoga and Attakila Matana yoga, right? So self-indulgence and the self-mortification, right? Self-indulgence and self-mortification, right? So even actually Buddha was also followed these two extremes when he was trying to find the truth in his 6 years of time. But Buddha finally identified and understood that these two extremes do not help to learn the actual or to gain the highest spiritual truth. Thereby, Buddha started to follow the middle path, right? So, and also Buddha always discourage the two approaches, which are the self-indulgence and the self-mortification, or else we could identify them as Kamasukallikana yoga or Attakila yoga, right? So Buddha identified these both extremes are useless and ignorable, and thereby Buddha emphasized the importance of right conduct, right. Buddha always stressed upon the right conduct, right? So according to the wordings of or the teachings of the Buddha, Vinaya is the lifeblood of the Buddhist Sasana, right? So according to the Buddha, Vinaya is the lifeblood of the Buddha Sasana, or else we could say Vinaya is the main thing or the main chain which protects the dispensation of Buddhism, right? So the main thing which protects the dispensation of Buddhism, right? So it is another characteristic which is attributed to the Buddhism, right? So emphasis on morality or seal, right? The next important characteristics which helped to spread the Buddhism all over India during the 6th century BCE was Buddha always tried to uplift the women's status. Buddha always tried to uplift the women's status, right? So when we have already know this fact, during the 6th century BCE, women there was no position was given to women, right? So women were treated as servants within the society, servants to especially to men, right? So the women were given a very low position within the society, right? So but Buddha wanted to overcome this problem, right? So Buddha wanted to give a higher position to the women within the society, or else we could say Buddha wanted to uplift the status of the women within the society, right? So in order to make sure that, Buddha took several and many approaches to improve the status of the women within the society, right? So the when it if we talk about the society, the status of the women at that time, birth of a daughter was considered as a woe, and men were not happy to have daughters to their families as newborns, right? So I don't know how the situation is now, but if we, even in Sri Lanka, as we have as Sri Lankans, we have the cultural and religious influence from Sri Lanka, from India, right? So not now. The modern generations are well understandable, right? So, but if we talk about 2 to 3 generations back, the families are actually not happy to have baby girls, right? So I don't know now the situation in India now, but during the Brahminic society, especially during the Buddha's period, during the 6th century BCE, birth of a daughter was considered as a great woe, and men were actually, they were not happy with it to have daughters as newborn, right? So, but if it was a son, right? If it was a son, birth of a son was considered as a great luck or prosperity to the family. Right? So, if a daughter was born to the family, then it was considered as the fault of the woman, right? So, it was considered as a fault or the calamity of the wife or the woman of the family. Then, in order to get a baby boy, or the male for the family, what the husband did was, they tried to remarry another woman to have a baby boy to the family, right? So that is how the society was developed during the Brahminic, sorry, during the Brahminic culture, right? So, and also according to the during this specific era, during this specific time, women were treated as a servants to the
Record.
Can you all hear? Sorry, my phone was, there was a problem with my phone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. There was a problem with my phone. I'm very sorry for that. Right. So we were talking about the women within the Brahminic culture, right? So according to the Brahminic tradition, during the 6th century BCE, women were treated as servants to the men, right? So women were treated as servants to the men, right? So they should serve men for the during their entire life, right? So and also within the ancient India, women played, they had, when we talk about the ancient Indian situation, they had no role in performing the religious rituals and sacrificial ceremonies. They were not allowed to attend or participate to those ceremonies, right? So we have talked about this when we were discussing about the Vedic civilization and all, right? So they had no chance to participate or to perform any religious activities during the 6th century BCE, right? So actually they were prohibited to participate to those ceremonies, right? So and also women were treated as or regarded as spiritually inferior to men, right? Women were treated or regarded as spiritually inferior to men, right? So it means they were given a very lower status within the society. And also there was a prominent and prevalent concept or sacrificial ritual called Sati Puja, right? So hope you may or may not know about this. Hopefully I know the Mr. Rahul and Miss Anupama might know this. Sati Puja is where in ancient India, women were obliged to throw themselves to the husband's funeral pyre, right? So once the husband was dead, then the wife was obliged to throw herself into the husband's funeral pyre, right? So it was called as this kind of a sacrificial ceremony, sacrificial ritual, which was there within the India, right? So which was known as Sati Puja, right? So Buddha always opposed to these rituals, right? So not only for these women, for the specific women's lower status, but also all the sacrificial rituals, Buddha was against them, right? So the Buddha always opposed to these myths and misleading concepts, and Buddha always wanted to provide equal position to the women within the society, not only to the women, to all the human beings within the society, right? So Buddha always wanted to uplift the status of the women within the society, right? So once Buddha advised the king Kosala, as girls may be worthier than boys, worthiness is not depend upon the gender but on the development of good qualities. Right. So once Buddha has advised king of the Kosala, the girls may be worthier than boys. Worthiness is not a fact which depend upon the gender, but uh, worthiness is depend upon the development of the good qualities. Right. So, and also through several suttas within the Buddhism, we could trace that Buddha always tried, or Buddha has given an immense stress to provide a honorable place to the women within the society. Right. So within the society, mother is, according to the Buddhism, due to the influence of the Buddhism, mother is even now in Sri Lanka, as we have a great influence from India, from especially from Buddhism, mother is considered as the enlightened one within the family. Right, mother was given the basic priority within the family. Right, so enlightened one within the home, within the family, and also wife is regarded as the best friend to the husband, right? According to the Buddhism, Buddha has advised that the wife should be the best friend to the husband, thereby they could have a good family life by understanding and by providing the equal positions to both of them, right? And also the Buddha gave the admission to the women within the dispensation of the Buddhism, right? So with the at the very first Buddha did not want to give the admission to the women, but with the persistence and determination of the Mahaprajapati Gautami, she pleaded for the admission of women into the Sangha. She pleaded of the admission for the Sangha. Thereby, at first, actually, Buddha refused to give the ordination to the women, but by Ananda Thiro was also interfered into that, and Buddha accepted the request, right? So thereby the Buddha, within the dispensation of Buddhism, Buddha formed the ordination for the bhikkhunis or nuns, right? And also through this activity, Buddha was able to improve or to uplift the status of women within the society by giving the ordination to the women, right? So in some suttas also, Buddha had illustrated the great parts played by the women, for example, Visakha and Ambapali, right? And also Buddha wanted to encourage the women both in spiritual as well as in secular terms, both in spiritual and secular terms. And many Buddha's women followers, both the laity as well as who were ordained, achieved the sainthood, right? Most of the women followers, both not only the ordained but also the laity, to achieve the sainthood by following the Buddhist doctrine, right? So another characteristic that we could identify that we could trace within the Buddhism is universality, right? So what do we mean by universality, right? So if we take the core teaching of the Buddhism or the Dhamma, it is a universal truth, right? So the core teaching or the core doctrinal fact to the Buddhism, it is a universal truth, right? So what is the universal truth, which is the Dukkha Satya, right? So Dukkha Satya, it could be it is same or equal for each and everyone within the world, right? Animals or despite of the race, nationality, richness, poverty, whatever it is, Dukkha Satya or the suffering is common for each and everyone, right? So that is why we identify it as a universal truth, right? So universal truth is universal truth to Dukkha Satya is a universal truth to everyone. Everybody face this, and this it is a kind of same scenario for all, right? So the universality, it is another characteristic which talks about when we study the doctrine Buddhism, universality, where it is common for each and every being within the world, right? So, and also another fact that we could identify or the feature is avoidance of metaphysical matters, right? So there are we are not going to learn about these speculative problems of metaphysical nature or the questions in detail, rather for your understanding and to have a quick or brief understanding about these characteristics, avoidance of metaphysical nature or the metaphysical matters, right? So there are 10 speculative problems which have been included in Pottapada Sutta and the Chula Malvanke Sutta, right? So there were around 10 speculative problems, right? So Buddha never wanted to answer those metaphysical questions, right? So Buddha never wanted to answer, always maintained his noble silence, right? He never wanted to answer the metaphysical questions, and he always maintained his noble silence whenever any follower asked about the metaphysical matters, because Buddha stressed that answering them would not help to end the suffering, answering those speculative problems or the answering the metaphysical matters would not help anyone to end the suffering or to gain the higher spiritual life, right? So Buddha considered those questions as inexpressible, right? So they are in vain. Buddha treated them as in vain questions, right? So and Buddha always rejected or kept the noble silence towards the metaphysical matters, and Buddha always stressed upon to follow the middle path. Buddha always stressed upon to follow the middle path, right? So it is another characteristic or the feature that we could identify within the religion Buddhism. And the another characteristic is the analytical approach, right? So analytical or discriminating approach was well prevalent within the doctrine Buddhism, right? So analytical approach was well prevalent within the doctrine Buddhism. Buddha always wanted to discriminate or to analyze his doctrine. He advised his followers to analyze the doctrine, right? So within this there is an common example that we could trace within this Subha Sutta called Subha. Brahmin youth called Subha introduced a question to the Buddha. The question was, who is the best person between a lay person who is engaged in wholesome activities and a monk who is not engaged in wholesome activities, right? So that was the question by the Subha, and Buddha answered that the one who answer after making analysis, right? So Buddha always prioritize the analyzing, right? Buddha always prioritize the analyzing, right? So thus the religion or doctrine is simply known as a religion consisted with analytical and discriminating approaches. Religion which is consisting with analytical and discriminating approaches, right? So and another characteristic that we could trace was the analytical approach. And the another feature attributed to the Buddhism is pragmatic approach, right? So well expounded Buddhist doctrine is realized directly and immediately by oneself, right? So the Buddhism, the specific doctrine was realized by Buddha himself. It was realized by Buddha himself, right? So it is applicable and understood. It is applicable, and anybody individually it is understandable, right? So this specific doctrine is applicable, and any individual could understand or to grab the religion, right? So in order to explain more about the pragmatic approach, Buddha gives three similes to explain more about this pragmatism. They are we are not going to, I have in the given more information in your lecture note, right? So try to just mention them, right? You don't have to remember each and every simile, right? So the within the uh, Alagaddupama Sutta, Buddha has identified uh, or mentioned it as a raft. It as a raft where the Dhamma is compared to the raft, which is for the purpose of crossing over the river, but not to the grasp, not to the grasp. And within the Chula Malunkya Sutta, Buddha described the pragmatic approach using the poisonous arrow, right? So relates an event of not attending to unnecessary inquiries. And also Samyutta Nikaya, Buddha related or the tried to give an example for the group. The handful of knowledge which Buddha taught is beneficial in solving the basic issues of the human experiences, right? So those are the three main similes that we could identify where the Buddha has talked about the pragmatic approach, right? Pragmatic approach. And also Buddha always insisted on pragmatic approach, but always discouraged his disciples to display their power. Right? Buddha always insisted on the pragmatic approach, but discouraged his all the followers to display their power. Buddha never wanted to display miracles, but never wanted to, but always wanted to help people in their spiritual progress with pragmatic approach, right? So pragmatic approach is one of the major characteristics which is attributed to the religion Buddhism. Pragmatic, we could simply say it is very practical religion. It is very practical religion, right? So because Buddhism was identified and understood by Buddha himself, identified and immediately understood by Buddha himself. Thereby, it is a very understandable doctrine. Understandable doctrine, right? So very practical doctrine, right? So pragmatic doctrine, right? So thereby, Buddha always never wanted to show or display miracles to his followers. Rather, he wanted to be practical within his religion, and what he wanted was he wanted to make spiritual progress by using pragmatic approach within his followers, right? So it is another characteristic that we could identify within the Buddhism, pragmatic, or simply we could say it is a very practical religion, right? So the Buddhist theories or the Buddhist concept we could use the Buddhist concept to solve our even day-to-day life problems. Very practical religion. It is very understandable, right? So because that specific religion was identified and understood by a normal human being who was the Buddha, right? So therefore, it was very understandable and practical religion where anybody could identify and understand, right? So that is about the pragmatic approach. And there was another characteristic called empirical approach, right? So within the Sangarava Sutta, Buddha explained three classes of thinkers: traditionalist, rationalist, and experientialist. Right? So Buddha, he himself claimed as experientialist, and as it emphasizes the individual experiences. Right? So, and finally, what Buddha wanted was to, within the empirical approach also, Buddha wanted to show the path to path of knowledge, and taught through the empirical approach. He showed the Four Noble Truths in order to achieve the higher spiritual goal. Right. So further, Buddha stressed and advised that one should depend on oneself, or the self-reliance, to achieve the higher spiritual life. Right. So that is what the empirical approach. Right. So far we have discussed about 12 characteristics which are attributed to the Buddhism. If we go through one by one: openness, open to all. Openness is where uh, the people within, or the followers, were given the entire freedom within the Buddhism doctrine, right? So, and also open to all castes. We talked about this again and again. Simplicity and the use dialect, right? So the Pali dialect was the very most common dialect at that time, right? So Pali, it was used to preach the doctrine Buddhism, right? So promote harmlessness or ahimsa, tolerance, emphasis on morality, or emphasis on sila, or else emphasis on right conduct. Then uplift women's status, right? So this is something more important characteristic that we could trace: uplifting the women's status. And also universality, right? So if we take it answers the universal, answers a problem which all the people face in common. It talks about the universal truth, which is the dukkha satya, right? And also avoidance of metaphysical matters, right? So Buddha always wanted to avoid the metaphysical questions and speculative problems. He never wanted to answer those questions, right? So because the answering those speculative questions would never help to achieve the higher spiritual life, right? So thereby avoidance of the metaphysical matters and analytical approach. Buddha wanted his followers to analyze well before grasping the doctrine. Then pragmatic approach and empirical approach, right? So those are the characteristics which are mainly attributed to the Buddhism, right? So then finally, there are a few more facts before we finish the lesson. Reasons or factors, we have already talked about this during this lecture. Reasons or factors which helped to spread the Buddhism among large section of population during the 6th century BCE, right? So the first one is emphasis on practical morality, right? Emphasis on practical morality being a simple philosophy and provide acceptable solutions to problems of mankind, right? So the during the 6th century BCE, we learned that there were plenty of religions came out during the 6th century BCE, but people were not satisfied with those religions because they had several mankind problems, but none of the religion answered those questions, right? So the Buddhism provide acceptable solutions to problems of mankind, right? Buddhism provided acceptable solutions to all the problems. Thereby, people wanted to follow it helped to attract masses of population towards the religion Buddhism, right? It is one reason why Buddhism was spread widely during the 6th century BCE. And the second one is the idea of social equality, right? So we have already talked about this plenty of time, right? So the social equality, right? So there were several classes or hierarchies there within the society. Buddha wanted to give the equality, not and also when it comes to the gender, right? So Buddha wanted to give the equality both the men and, right? So when it comes to the human beings and animals, Buddha always wanted to give the similar position, equal love and kindness to all the animals as well as human beings, right? So thereby, so Buddha, the idea of social equality, right? So this is one of the major reason, because the due to the hierarchies, the lowest layers were really ill-treated during this 6th century BCE. So people were fed up with this uh, rituals and the governance, right? So thereby Buddhism always give a same status to all the people within the society. Thereby Buddhism and Buddha could attract more followers from all the layers of the society. And also merchants like Anathapindika and courtesans like Ambapali accepted the faith because they received and given required respect within the society, right? So if we take the courtesans, especially like Ambapali, the social status, right? So if you take the social status, they were given a very low position within the society. But when it comes to the Buddhism, whatever, whether the person is belong to the very high position, or the great merchant, or the courtesans, or the Shudras or whatever, right? So all were like Sunita Sopaka, they were belong to the Shudras and courtesans. All the people, once they embraced the religion Buddhism, once they entered into the ordination, irrespective of their position within the society, they were treated equally. Thereby, many people tended to embrace the religion Buddhism, right? So, and the again use dialect, right? We have already talked about this. It is very common dialect where any person within the society could use, right? So the Pali, right? So thereby it was the most popular language at that time. Thereby, Buddhism could attract more crowd towards the religion, right? So, and the institution of Sangha. This is one of the major, one of the great point where the many followers came towards the Buddhism. Institution of Sangha. Sangha is the religious order within the Buddhism. Sangha is the religious order within the Buddhism. It is a very well organized institution even for today, right? So it is a very well organized institution which helps to popularize the Buddhism, right? So the institution of Sangha, they always wanted to popularize the Buddhism, right? So the members of Sangha are open to all the people of the society, irrespective of their caste, social status, identity, and etc. Right? So when it comes to the Sangha, they too they are great followers of the religion Buddhism. Thereby, they do not consider the status, identity, class of the people who are within the society. They treat all the people within the society in a very equal manner, right? So, but when it comes to the admission into the Sangha, criminals, lepers, and persons who were affected with the infection diseases were not given admission into the Buddhist Sangha, right? So the criminals, lepers, and the persons who were affected with the infectious diseases were not allowed to admit into the Buddhist Sangha, right? So on admission, the monks had to follow a ceremony and to shave their head and to wear yellow or saffron robes, right? So then during, if you take their daily routine, they have to go on daily rounds to preach Dhamma as well as to seek alms, right? So during 4 months of rainy season, or else we could identify it as rain retreats or the Vassa, they have to took up a fixed abode. They have to stay in a one fixed position, location and to meditate, right? So the Sangha not only promoted the Buddhism, but also they promoted the education among the people irrespectively to the caste, right? So they do not consider about the class or social status. They not only preached Dhamma, but also they promoted the education among all the classes within the society, right? So, and Sangha also governed by democratic principles, and when it comes to the Sangha, both monks and nuns, they are bound to follow and obey code of conducts and rules. They are bound to follow and obey conduct rules, and they were governed by specific democratic principles, right? So the institution of Sangha had always helped to spread the Buddhism effectively and very efficient manner, even for today, right? So they do a very great service to the entire society. So it is a so institution is Sangha is the religious order of the Buddhism. It is a well mannered and well organized institution, right? So final topic tonight is the demystification of kinship and caste, right? So we also already we have talked about this, right? So the kinship and caste were main institutions at that we could find within the 6th century BCE. Kingship and caste, right? So they were ordained by the Brahmins. They were divinely ordained by the Brahmins, kingship and the caste or classes, right? So, but Buddha never wanted to have dissimilarities within the society. Buddha wanted to give an equal position to all the people within the society. Thereby, Buddha identified those institutions, especially the kingship and caste. Buddha identified those institutions as just man-made social arrangements, right? So that is very true, because during the very early periods, during we have already talked about, right? So during the very early periods, we know that there were no social arrangements, there were no classes prevailed, right? So as Buddha said, they are like kingship and caste. They are just social, man-made social arrangements, right? So those institutions were made by Brahmins themselves, right? So those are man-made social arrangements. Thereby, Buddha rejected those social arrangements. Buddha treated all the people within the society in a very equal manner, right? So despite of their origin, right? So and this this equality could be identified as one of the sharpest dimension or difference among Buddhism and Brahmanism, right? So sharpest dimension in between the Buddhism and Brahmanism, thereby Buddhism and Buddha could attract more and more crowd who were belong to all the layers within the society, right? So Buddha rejected the kingship and caste, right? So those are very divinely ordained institutions during the 6th century BCE. Buddha rejected them, and Buddha just identified them as man-made social arrangements, right? So that is very true, because those institutions were actually made by Brahmins themselves, right? So thereby, finally, Buddha wanted to provide the equality to all the people within the society, and to uplift the status of all the people within the society, respective to the social class, caste, or whatever, right? So that is about the Buddhism, right? So we have talked about the Buddha in a very descriptive, very basic manner, and the main characteristics which are attributed to the Buddhism, and factors which help to spread Buddhism in a very massive way, which help to attract large number of population, right? So during in our next lecture, I'm planning to discuss about the differences and similarities in between Buddhism and Jainism, right? So yes, then our next lecture will be on 23rd. Yes, 23rd, I guess, right? So then you will be having summer vacation from 7th onwards, right? So then I will give you a question tonight. Take down the question. Briefly describe the main characteristics which are attributed to religion Buddhism. Right. So it is for your homework. Um, write the answers whenever you have time. It is okay to answer them after your summer vacation, right? So then that is all for tonight. Then stay hydrated, especially these days, right? So stay safe. And if you have any questions, just email me. And thank you very much for joining with me. Study whenever you have time. Enjoy your summer vacation and stay safe. Thank you very much for joining with me tonight.
Thank you very
Stay safe.
much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Good
much.
night.
Good night. Have a good night.